and welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and I have a large album tutorial for you featuring the Dress My Crafts Vintage Saga paper collection. So this is about 9 inches by 10 3/4 inch, and it was a lot of fun to make, and it's very heavy, and I think that you will enjoy this. So let's take a look on the inside here. So what we have here for page 1 is we have a series of foldouts. So this is the first one. It is magnetic and it's for picture placement. And I just tucked some extra tags and mats right on in here. And this one folds out as well, so you can get all that in there, your photographs. And I'll just stick that right back in there. This will fold out, and it's very large fold out, and you'll find that there's just a lot of spaces to place your photos. So there's places here, and this is a little side pocket, and this is an upright pocket. And I got 3 picture mats and a tag in here, but you can get more in there. And then what I did was I did an extra large picture mat here so that I can get my photograph in there and still retain some of the image. And so I have some of those there. Right down here is our side pocket, and I have a couple picture mats in there and a little tag for this one. I did back the tag on that, and it slides back in. We have some flowers that we flattened down a bit. So here's page 2, and this is magnetic up here, this little strap. And this is just kind of like a side waterfall. And I was conserving paper, so if you don't like that, you can always use some of the decorated paper left over after the tutorial, as there is plenty. And I did do quite a bit of picture mats in this too. So, and then you can place a photo here as well. Down here, this is magnetic, and I just stuck like this little tag here. And this flips up, and a place down here to place a photo. And I'll just put that right on back in there. Page 3. So page 3 is a really fun one. This is using the Heartfelt Creations little booklet dies. And if you don't have any dies, you can still make this because I give you a measurement for a rectangle and also the inner pages for you. Not only can you fit your wallet size in here, but if you need to go a size bigger, you can, and you can just layer them back. Behind this is a pocket, and I just put some photo mats in here, and then I have a larger one here, slightly larger, that I haven't matted yet. I might use that as a large tag. Back up here is for your larger photos, so like 4x6 or even a 5x7 would fit in there. And this is a larger one that I cut to where I can place one of my other photos and still have some of the pretty decorations up there. Over here, so this is a fun one, and this is magnetic and it opens up, and I put a little tag in there for me. You can put some photos in there, and you can also slide back behind. And this will come up, and it gives you a nice space to place a photo. Same down here. And then this is a large fold out. So if you wanted to place a photo here, you could. You open it up, and there's picture placement down here. And I use this die to cover up the picture mat a bit. And what you can do is slide your photo back behind there. And if you do not have a die cutting machine, you would just have this, and it's just perfectly fine. And I used this die once in the tutorial, so just so you know. So if you already have it, that's great. Or if you plan on making more tutorials with me, I'll be using that. So that flips up, and you have another space here for a photo, and then we have a large pocket. And I have 2 larger picture mats. I have this journaling card and another little journal. And this just all folds back up. The next page. Okay, so this is a fun page, and this is a magnetic folder that just kind of comes right up. So one of the things about this is that in the tutorial, when I'm showing you to make this, I give you the option to place a second magnet, and you'll want to do that. While I was doing picture mats, I figured I better do that just to give it a little more strength, and so it's harder to come off the page. So let's take a look at this. It's not only a folder, it's like a mini book. It has a lot of places, and you can do your portrait style or your landscape on this. And there's a series of magnets in here to help keep it shut. And as you can see, there's a ton of places to stick your photos. These are two side pockets. One loads in this way, and I have some good size photo mats in here. And the other one loads in that way. And I was able to get some. And you'll have plenty of leftovers to make your photo mats. If you want more than what you see that I have, then add in some solid colored cardstock is what I would do. And that just sticks right back over here. So because we were so thick here, we went flat over here and just for some photo placement. Here we are coming to our last pages. Notice that this one, I did not place anything on here. However, in the tutorial and also on the pre-cutting measurement guide, the free PDF that you'll want to download before taking the tutorial, I do give you some measurements so that you can make another spaced pocket like down here. And I'll get to that in a moment. You have two fold outs here. The first one is rather large, and I have some 4x6 and a smaller size photo mat here. Isn't that pretty? That just slides back in. This folds out and you have some spaces. I don't know what size photos you're using, so if you're using just like a 4x6 or like maybe even a 5x7, it'll fit here. I'm going to be doing two of the smaller sizes through here. And this is a fold out, and this would make for a lovely frame, or just leave it. And then another place for a photograph. Now this is a spaced pocket. Note that all these picture mats that I got in here. And that is what I was saying, that you can make this again and place it over here. And there's also the leftover paper so it matches. So let's take a look at everything I was able to get in here. And as you can see, I still have more space to slide more. I made a large folder, and I have not placed any decorative paper down. I am going to be putting some solid in here. More picture mats, and a lot of these are 4x6, 4¼ by 6, or a little larger. So you can see I just got them piled right on in here. And so that is why, because I was able to hold so much in here, I wanted to be able to have just flat photo placement over here. And we come to a very, very large folder here, and it opens up, and I can place some more photos. So this is just a lot to be in this, and we spaced it out so that it will work correctly. And I'm just going to start just shoving these in there. Oh, one more. Let's get that in there. So that is the album that we will be creating, and I hope you like it. Let's move on to the materials list. Materials list. So the main ingredient is the Dress My Craft Vintage Saga paper collection. And there are a total of 24 papers in here, 2 sheets of each of the 12 designs. So this is what we're going to use, and it's really thick paper, so this will work out great for our large album. You're going to need Tyvek for this. We'll be needing it for the outside spine area. You're going to need 2 pieces of medium weight chipboard. Okay, so for my cardstock, for inside my pages, my pockets, and all that good stuff, I am using an 85-pound black cardstock. You can use an 80-pound, or if you have 110-pound, that's great too. For the album wrap, what you're going to want is 2 sheets of 65-pound or even an 80-pound max for the wrapping of the outside of our album. In this album, I am using quite a bit of materials. You do not have to. You can pick and choose what you would like to use. I am using the Memory Hardware by Frank Garcia, the decorative frame, Chantilly Royal. I will be using 2 packs of these magnets, and these are the basic gray, and they're the larger ones. I am using for the spine the Tim Holtz Baroque frames, and there's 2 in here, and you'll only need to use 1. So you'll have 1 left over for another project. To close my album, I am using the Dritz Extra Large Hook and Eyes, and I'm going to be using nickel. You can use any color that you would like. For this tutorial, if you have brads, a couple brads in your stash, grab them. If not, you can use glue. I am using dies in this, so I am just going to show you what dies I am going to be using. And if you are not a die cutter and you have the EK Tools large punches, you can use that instead for your trim. Okay, I am using Spellbinders. It's an S5 181. It's called the A2 Bracket Borders 1. And I love this set. I've had this one for quite some time. We do have this in our shop again. But look at these beautiful brackets that come in this pack. And this is going to look wonderful in our album. This is the S5 216 by Spellbinders, and it is the A2 Tranquil Moments, and I will be using this. This is the S4 707 Graceful Damask, and you get those 2. So I'm using quite a variety in this album, and I can't wait to use this one. I haven't gotten it out of the package yet, but as you can see, it's going to make a beautiful border, and this is the S3 383 doily border die. Now this is brand new, and I will be using this. This is by Heartfelt Creations. You're going to want the booklet frames, which is going to give you the fancy outside. And then if you get this, you're going to want to get the booklet basics, because then you have your smoother edge booklet for the inside. So those 2 is what I am using. If you are not a die cutter, you can hand cut out a rectangle and score it down the middle, and you do that instead. I am going to be die cutting my own flowers and leaves. I don't have any leaves done yet, but I wanted to show you these beautiful flowers that I just started off making. I only used 1 ink for this, and it's either a light, I either went light or dark, but this is the Memento Rhubarb Stalk, and it's a beautiful color with this collection. If you are not making your own flowers, we do have a variety of flowers to choose from in our store. Now this is an older die. We do have it in our store. It's the Ariana Bloom Stamp and Die Set. And that is exactly what I used to make these flowers, the smaller and the larger. I will be using the Leafy Accents stamp and the Leafy Accents die by Heartfelt Creations. The inks I'll be using is the Tim Holtz Distress inks, the peeled pink and the crushed olive. I stamp the image with the darker peeled paint. I go around the edges, blot some color on the inside, and then I blot crushed olive here and there all over, and it gives me a two-toned realistic look. Glossy Accents, I am using this, and what this is for my flowers and my leaves. And what this will do, will shine this up. And I've already got it on there. And not only does it shine it up, but it stiffens it up. So they will last on the cover and they're more durable. Other flowers that I'm actually going to be implementing in is the Tim Holtz bouquet flowers. You get more than what you see here. This is left over in my stash, but you get a pack of them, and what you can do is clip off little bits of the white flowers to use on the inside as well, and you can even ink those. All right, let's talk adhesives. You're going to need 1 pack of the 3/8 and 1 pack of the 1/4 inch score tape. That is your double-sided adhesive. Another thing you're going to want is to get some good glue. I'm using the Art Glitter Dries Clear adhesive glue because I alternate between the score tape and this. And one last thing about the flowers. On the center of the flowers, you may have seen that I have some stuff in there, and those are pearls. And you can choose any color you want, white, lemon chiffon, or whatever color that you find attractive. Equipment that you're going to need a paper cutter, your scoring board, pencil with eraser, craft knife is always handy, scissors, your ruler, and you might want a, for quick tacking of your flowers, a glue gun or so. If you haven't already downloaded your free copy of the PDF of the materials list and the pre-cutting scoring guide, you'll want to do so. We will be reviewing those in the tutorial though. So the first thing on our list was chipboard. We cut 2 pieces of chipboard that were 9 by 10 3/4, and we cut 1 piece, and those were called our chipboard covers, by the way. And then we cut 1 piece that was 2.5 by 10 3/4, and that was our chipboard spine. We had 2 pieces of 65-pound weight 12 by 12 cardstock, and we just labeled those album wrap. Tyvek, one that was 4.5 inches by 10 3/4. We cut 3 pieces of our 85-pound cardstock. If you're using 80-pound, that is fine, or even 110-pound, that is perfect. But we cut 3 pieces that were 9 1/16 by 10 3/4, and we called that inner page. Now on all 3 of these, we placed these on our scoring board, so we were 9 1/16 inch across. We scored each one at 5/8. We cut 2 pieces, 8 7/8 by 10 5/8. There was no scoring. We called these our inside covers. And the last piece was 4.5 by 10 5/8. We called that our inner spine cover. Let's move on to assembly. Grab your 2 pieces that are 12 by 12. They're your album wrap, the 65-pound. We're going to use our 3/8 inch score tape. And on one side of our 12 by 12, just on one piece, we're going to lay our score tape all the way to the edge without going over. All the way down. Let's burnish that. Real quick, very important that using score tape, anytime you lay it down, you're going to want to burnish it down to get all the air out from underneath it. And that way you won't get liftage. And you'll do the same thing when we're applying glue. Now check your piece to make sure you don't have any overhang of score tape. And I have just a little bit there, because we don't want that. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to remove our score tape backing, and we are going to overlap just over that score tape. For me, I want to make sure it stays even. So what I'm going to do is grab my paper cutter here, and I'm going to use the flat edge here of that so that I can make sure my paper stays flat against it. And I'll use my craft knife to get the adhesive up there. Alright, so I'm going to lay that up flat against my board there, and I'm going to take this one and I'm going to overlap it on top of the other. And That will help keep you straight in this. Because our chipboard covers are so large, and I do want to wrap this, we don't have much wiggle room for our wrap going over. Usually I like at least an inch, but we won't have that. Let's grab our 4.5 by 10 3/4 inch Tyvek, along with our chipboard pieces. Now you'll see that right here on your seam, that is going to be our middle point, and then we can always trim off the edges. But with this, what we're going to want to do is line this with some score tape. Now if you want to use glue, you can, but I recommend the score tape. So the first thing we're going to do is go around the outside edges of our Tyvek, kind of like a picture frame, and we'll clip off any overhang. We definitely don't want that. And Tyvek is kind of a different style of material, so it may try to move around, slip around on you, or crinkle up. It's okay. Don't worry about that. So to start, I am going to clip off any overhang. Okay, for me, what I want to do is I am going to line this row by row all the way across. That way I don't have to worry about any bubbling up of my piece when this goes down and when we wrap. My adhesive of choice is always my score tape when it comes to building the album, and I don't recommend skimping by on that. This is something that we're creating to last forever. So this is going to store our memories, and we definitely want this to hold tough. If you have larger score tape, the wider one, this is a great time to lay just a couple strips of those on that wider. When I'm creating my own albums and I'm not doing a tutorial, I do use the wider score tape, sometimes 3-inch, 2-inch, 2.5, to do the inside of certain things there. But now I do have some left over there. I'm just going to grab my 1/4 inch and I'll just place a piece right on in there since I wasn't too even about this. And it's okay if you overlap your score tape. Okay, let's burnish this. And sometimes you can even hear the air bubbles getting ironed out and out from underneath your tape when you're doing that. So I'm going to show you first before we do it, so that you're not flying by the seat of your pants here. I'm going to remove the score tape. Then what's going to happen is, see our seam? This is going to go straight down even with our seam. Seam should be right in the middle there, but don't pull it all the way down. What you're going to want to do is make sure you have an even amount here and here. So if you need to use your ruler, do so. Another thing is when you're working with score tape, you're going to want to make sure that you wash your hands and get it free of any lotions, oils on your fingers, and so that the adhesive doesn't decrease. So here's my spine, or the seam for my spine. And again, I'm gonna do the best I can with trying to make sure the first thing is even top and bottom, and try to stay even side to side. So if you get it on a little crooked, it's okay, but I'm a little more here than here, but I think I'll be all right. So we're just gonna iron that down. All right, the next step, we're going to put our spine down. Okay, we have a cover for this, so I'm going to leave this up so that you can identify it better. But for our spine, same thing goes. I'm going to place score tape all the way around my spine like a picture frame, and then I'm going to fill it in. And I hear my Roomba, aka Scrappy, running in the background. So if you hear that noise in the background, I apologize. I do have to get things done. I've got the adhesive off the back here, And what I'm going to do is find that seam again. I can feel it with my fingers if you can't see it real well. But what you're going to do is bring the middle point of the spine, the chipboard spine, to that. Now if you're even, if you got even with your Tyvek, great. So I'm just going to place this down as best I can. So I think that's good there. I'm just going to put some pressure down with my tool here. All right, let's grab one of our chipboard covers. And for this, we're going to grab our 3/8 inch score tape, and we're going to line the outside edges of this with our score tape. And we're going to go all the way around like a picture frame. Okay, so because we have that Dritz closure, and in case you get turned around, what I'd like you to do is place two pieces, one here on that side and one right next to this side. That way, if you get turned around when you do place this down, when our Dritz comes down, it doesn't matter which side this chipboard lays, it's not going to pull up our paper. So the next thing is we're going to go one down the middle, and I think for the cover we're going to go two on each side of that. Just because we have the resin frame and we have the other thing on the front, just to make sure. So this is our cover, and our cover is going to be placed down on this side. Alright, what's going to happen, and I'm going to show you this, and you may want to grab your ruler and your pencil. What I'd like you to do is place your ruler down, and from the side of this chipboard spine, measure over, oh, let's do a 1/4 inch, and we'll make a little pencil mark. We'll do that over here too to get ready, 1/4 inch. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is remove the chipboard, or remove the score tape, and I'm going to place this down right on top of the pencil line to where I can't see it anymore. And I'm going to make sure that I am lined up with the bottom of this chipboard spine. Okay? So let's do that. Again, I'm going to come over, make sure I am even with the bottom of my spine, go right on top of that pencil line so it does give me my spacing needed for this wrap. Now be sure that you go straight, because there's not much for us down at the bottom or the top to wrap over. So got that down, and I'll just help this out. So right here, I'm going to erase this. Like I said, you can get turned around, and this is inside cover. Now, inside of the front cover. Okay, the back cover, we don't have a whole bunch of embellishments or anything going on that, but let's start off by going around the outside edges like a picture frame, and then we are for sure going to be placing a piece of score tape right next to this score tape, and then right next to the one that frames the outside on this side too. Once you have that, what we're going to do is just go one down the middle, and we'll go one on either side. Make sure our paper doesn't get any extra bubbling or anything like that. So for this, we're going to do the same thing. Here's my mark. I'll remove my score tape. I'll line it up with the bottom of these, which is the bottom of my Tyvek for me, and I'm going to place this just so I can't see that pencil line. And I'm going to make sure it goes on straight, because we need that spacing as straight as possible for our album wrap. Make sure that is as straight can be, especially down over here so there's enough to wrap. And I'm a little bit more, again, like I said, up there than down below, but I'll have just enough. All right, next step, we are going to work the edges of our paper before we do any wrapping. And the reason why we need to do this important step is because it will loosen up the fibers and help your paper fold over. Sometimes you can get what is the splits on the edges. So we're just going to take our tool and lightly go like this. You can use your hand too, and just kind of work it over. And me, once I get that, I just kind of use the side of my tool. So we're going to do that over here as well. I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to just kind of do some bending with my fingers here. I'll take my tool and just kind of go like this, and now I'll take the side and help it over. Yeah, you don't want real tight because it's got to have a little give. Okay, we are now for this part, and like I said, we don't have a whole lot to bring over, so we're just going to carefully help those fibers up a little bit by pressing with our fingers. We're going to take it little by little here. Okay, next, let's just take our tool and help it. And don't dig in with your point because you will tear your paper. Next, we're going to just kind of take this, take the side, and help it. If you find that where the seam is, you get any splits, I don't have any at this point, but if you do, you'll want to use a dab of glue, kind of pat it on there so it doesn't continue. We're going to do the same thing with over here. And I think I'll start down here and slowly just work on this. Now you don't need a specialty tool like this. Any bone folder will work. So for me, I'm going to use this side, I think, because it's less sharp. And you just kind of work it like that. So just wanted to let you know. Okay, let's just kind of softly bend over here. So we have worked our edges here, and I don't think that I am going to trim down my sides. I think I'll leave those the way they are. But let's grab our score tape, and we are going to need our scissors for this. Now we're going to clip at the edges. Now you're going to need to leave 1/8 inch away. And I'm just going to clip just like that. And I'll do it over here, giving myself about 1/8 inch away because we'll be tucking that corner in. And over here. And over here. Alright, I think what we're going to do is start with folding it because there isn't a whole lot here. I think we'll fold this in first, and then what we'll do is we'll fold the sides in because there's a lot more to go over to help keep that down. So what I would like you to do at this point is we'll just line our score tape on our cardstock all the way around. And for me, I'm just going to bend mine right on over there, just like that. If you don't like doing that, you just place a piece. So let's continue on placing our score tape all the way around. I have got to turn off that Roomba. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I put Roomba on the other side of the house, so maybe his noise won't distract us. So what we're going to do is we are going to take some of our score tape from the bottom, and I'll just place that, or tear that off actually. And what we're going to do is press this over, and we're going to start easy, not doing tight, and start pressing it over just like that. Next, let's take our tool and burnish that down. And we'll flip it around, and we're going to do the same thing. And little Roomba does not want to stay on the other side of the house, so he is going to be turned off. I'll have to do my vacuuming later. So let's just start in the middle again, and then as soon as we do that, I can get him completely turned off, so we don't have that distraction noise in the background. Peace and quiet. So long as my dogs don't start in now. Okay, we're going to have to wrap our edges. So let's, or actually tuck our edges in first before we wrap. But what you can do is you can either take your nail, just like this, and you can push it in. Or you can use your tool and kind of come around the edge like that. But you'll want to press that in there. Next, we're just going to pull this over, and I'll make sure that that's down, and then we can burnish, and you should have a nice wrapped inner edge there. Let's do it for this one. Remove the score tape. I'll just press that in. We're good, and I'm going to bring this over. And if you get any puckering, you can take the edge, the flat side of your tool, and just press it down. And we'll burnish that down. Okay, so let's go ahead and slowly close our album. And you should be pretty good there. I didn't get any splits, which is nice. And then you have that. So here is this part so far. Let's grab our inner spine cover. Now for this one, you're going to want to have the writing side down. So I'm going to be placing my score tape on this side, and I'll grab my 3/8 because it's wider. And I'm going to go all the way around this like a picture frame, and then I'm going to fill it in. Now this is really important that you know that you're definitely going to need this completely covered, because when we place this down and then we lift, it's going to go onto this side and the other side in our spine, and we don't want it to pucker up when we pull in our sides. So we're just going to make sure that this gets completely covered. And the reason why I don't use glue at this part is because sometimes you don't get glue completely covering, and it can pucker up on you, and then it kind of looks funny in your album. So we'll have a nice clean looking album on the inside. And it's, even if you're sitting there saying, I don't mind if there's a little bubbling. Well, you want to make sure that this is covered anyway, because what sits on this side is your inner pages, your hinges. And we definitely don't want to have that give. Another thing on this album is because it's so large, is gravity will take an effect, and we will be covering that basis by reinforcing these hinges once we place them too. And it looks nice in the album anyway. And let's take a moment to burnish this down. So we do pick up the speed a little bit as we get into the album more. Once you've We've gotten through this, very important, the building of our album. Once we've gotten through maybe page 1 or 2, we'll pick up the pace a little bit more. At that point, you should be having the experience of making some pockets. You know how I teach, and you can have your pause button there ready, which you probably do right now anyway, because that is your best friend when taking video online tutorials. Let's grab this. So what's going to happen with this is it's going to go completely down over this. So even from side to side and even from top to bottom. Check to make sure you don't have any score tape peeking over your edge. So here we go. And I don't want to get my head in the video, especially since it's early morning and I haven't done anything with myself. But just make sure it goes on even and you're covering over the hinges and it is straight. So now we just burnish. And this part you definitely don't want to skip, because burnishing it down will make sure that your piece has no air underneath it and a nice flush piece. So what I want you to do is grab one of your covers. Now find here, if you can, where your spine is. And I want you to put your hand down and we're going to slowly bend this up. Okay? And you should not get any bubbling. And we're just going to work it a little bit here. So because this is newly constructed, it's going to be pretty stiff. So I'm just going to place my hand underneath that cover, put my hand down on the spine, and slowly lift it. Now, do not pull it all the way over. Your album is not designed to do that. You'll split out, most likely, your outside, but just give it some working. So this is what you should have, and it should make a nice crease there. And we have for our closure our drits. Now one thing you can do is stand this up and just kind of give it a little bit of a pinch like this and like this to help work it a little bit there. We are almost complete here. We have our inner covers and we also have our inner pages. And we're going to work with our inner pages first. So we had scored this and we're just going to fold on those score lines. And we'll use our tool to help us out with that. Okay, let's lay these out with the peak up. Let's grab our 3/8" score tape. So I am going to move this out of the way so you can see a little bit better. Peak is up. And you will see that your score line is right here. You do not want to get any score tape on that. So I'm going to go just to the right of that. And I'm going to clip off this so I have a nice straight edge to start with. And I'm just going to come all the way down. Now we will be layering over this little space our 1/4 inch. So just enough. And I think I will clip this off. I'm going to burnish that down. Grab your 1/4 inch and right to the edge there, we're going to lay that just to cover it up there without going over. If you go over, you'll want to clip that. And we will burnish that down. So we're going to do the same thing with each one of these. And you'll get quicker. This is the first time you've worked with score tape. It can be a little difficult to get used to working with it. After a while, you just kind of get quicker. All right, we are ready. Let's grab our book, and I'm going to show you first before I do it. But what we're going to end up doing is removing that score tape, okay? And then what we're going to do is pull up this, and we are going to place this evenly top to bottom, meaning giving ourselves the same amount of space down here and up here. If you would like to turn your album like this to kind of look each side first, where you need to be to make it even, you can then use your pencil, okay, and kind of put a mark where you need to start. And I see I need to clip off just a little more over here because I can see that score tape still peeking over. You'll get your own technique down to what's easiest for you over time in building these if you're using this style hinging. Now this style hinging I found to be very effective. It is easy and it holds. So I'm just going to stick that there right on into the crease. I'm going to bring this down to where my pencil mark is, and I'm going to place it. It's that simple. Now I'm going to burnish. Make sure you burnish well. Okay, our first page is in. Let's grab our next piece. And now, with our next piece, it is very simple because they all kind of fall into line like little soldiers. So I'll bring this up. If you, for whatever reason, got yours on crooked, okay, this is where you can even it up by giving yourself a little more space. But for the most part, you should be pretty good in there. And you just kind of push it up against that other one. Make sure you are straight, top and bottom, and you place it. Okay, next one, we're going to just butt it right on up there and place that. All right, let's go to the back, and we are going to burnish. And we do have a nice good spacing back there. We have good spacing in between, so bulky things, it will not matter. So here is our album, and those are in. Last thing that we need to do is place our inside covers. Now for me, and for you if you'd like, we're going to place it on the side that our score tape on the side that has the writing. Now this is something that you can actually alternate between your glue and your score tape. I like using score tape at least on the outer edges to make sure that it stays down and I don't have to worry about any of my edges lifting. So I'm going to remove my score tape and place my glue. But all we're going to be doing is placing this down on that inside cover to cover up those raw edges of our wrap. And you should be able to see where your hinge is for that, but I'll just put some glue down here. Now make sure you don't get on your hinge, but you should have just enough room for top and bottom and to get over there. So I have about maybe 1/8 of an inch down there or so. And it will fit right in that space nicely. So once you get that down, we're going to burnish it down really good. Get those edges and get that glue down on the inside. And here we go. And you should have a nice inside finished cover. Let's move on over to the back, and we're going to do the same thing. We'll place this. Our base album is complete. Let's now move on into decorating the outside. we're going to start cutting for our covers on the outside of our album. In your paper pack, you will find this print and you will find this print. Let's go ahead and take off that top trim piece. I already did on this one. So on this one, so where we're going to be cutting, because if you were to put this at exactly 12 inches, it puts you underneath this line here. So we're going to line up that little line with our paper cutter and only take off what's needed. And you can stick this off to the side in a reserve pile. So speaking of reserve piles, if you are new to taking my tutorials, one thing that you're going to find is that I frequently ask you to reach into your reserve pile. Your reserve pile is any leftover cuttings from your decorated paper, as well as when you were cutting for your base album. If you have any leftover black cardstock, we'll stick that in a separate pile. Alright, so we're going to start with this piece here. And to stay consistent, I always show you which way to cut your paper, and we start from the left, and I'll tell you to measure over this way to the right. I won't ask you to cut down, up, all over the place. I try to keep us as consistent as possible. So our first cut on this is we're going to measure over 8 7/8 inch, and we're going to cut. I'll line this on up. This piece here, I'm just going to stick this in my reserves for right now. Alright, so I'm going to turn my paper this way because I'm going to tell you to measure over to the right here. Measure over 10 5/8 inch and cut. And I'm just going to put this on my paper cutter. And we'll stick this in our reserves. So here is for our front cover. And the way I had us cut it was to leave us with a little bit of black border. So if you were to place this down and kind of center it on in there, you'll have a black border of your black cardstock. And it will be looking like this. We're not quite ready to glue this down yet. Let's grab our other piece. We're going to measure over 8 7/8 inch and cut. I'll get that on there. And I'll put this in my reserves for right now. I'm going to turn it looking at it like this. Measure over, nope, actually, let's turn it with the roses off to the left because I'd like to get the roses in on that paper on our back. So looking at your roses, it's this way. We're going to start over here and we're going to measure over 10 5/8 inch and cut. And I'll put this in my reserves. So I'm just going to move this off to the side here. So here is the front. So this is going to place like that. And on the back, this is going to place like that. We also need for our spine. So let's get this all together first. So grab this out of your reserves. We're going to turn it, looking at it like this. We're going to measure over 10 5/8 inch, and we will cut that. And this little piece would make for a great little tag, so put that in your reserves. Now turn this upside down because, again, we always start from the left and measure over. So looking at it like this, we're going to measure over 2.5 inches and cut. So 2.5. Now let's check to make sure that this will fit on our spine here. And if we were to place it, same thing. You should have a little bit of black border on each side, top and bottom. That looks good. I'm going to move this out of the way for right now. And let's get our cover print out, and we're going to need our score tape. And for this, let's grab our 1/4 inch. I think 1/4 inch will work for this. And all we're going to do is go around the outside edges here on our paper. Whoops, what's that? All the way around. And we're also going to place another strip next to the sides here. And I'll just kind of keep going with this. Alright, so for this we're going to go now 1 down the middle, and we're going to go 2 on either side, I think, for this. And we can always add a little glue if we feel we need to, but I think we'll be okay. Alright, so we're going to do the exact same thing on the back of this one. So let's do that. Okay, we're going to be burnishing all this down in just a moment. Let's grab our spine cover here. And we're going to do the same thing on this. Pretty much we're just going to go around the inside edges there, all the way around like a picture frame. I always say that, like a picture frame. I guess it's the easiest way for me to explain what I'm trying to get at here. Alright, we're going to go 1 next to these, because we are using the 1/4 inch. Just to make sure those sides don't lift. And what we'll do is we'll just go 1 down the middle at this point. And I think it'll be okay. Okay, what we want to do is just start burnishing all our score tape down, making sure there's no air bubbles left in it. Air bubbles, if you get them, you can get liftage, and I don't want that. Not after all this work, anyway. Alright, we have the opening off to the right, so here's the front cover. All I'm going to do is remove the score tape, and I am going to place this centered, leaving that black border all the way around my piece. Very simple. So because this is such a large piece, it can get away from you with the score tape. So if you want to put a dab of glue up in the corner, oh, there goes my dogs, then we can do that to help in case we need to maneuver this. So I heard that that works, so let's give it a try. At least I'm going to, and you can watch me. And excuse the puppies. I'll just put one right here, a little bit of glue right there in the corner. And then all I'm going to do is just try to get this to where it's even as I can anyway. And I think that is good, just like that. Anyway, the glue will help so you can maneuver it a little bit. If you have other tricks, then definitely use the one that works best with you. But since these are so large, it's hard to get a grip on it. So here's the front of my cover. And I think what I will do is grab my spine piece, because I want to match this up with the top of this so that it looks straight when you're looking around, and then I'll center that. So get this going here. And one thing here is I think I will squirt a little glue down in between, because we do have the Tim Holtz Baroque frame that when we glue that down, it may not hit the sides of our score tape, so maybe a little glue. And if you want to do squirt a little glue in the corner just in case to maneuver yourself, do so. So I'm going to bring this up and try to stay even. And I think this is good, right like that. So I'm just going to burnish that down and wipe up any of that glue. Okay, got it on. Now it's time for my back piece, and I'm going to do the same thing. Just kind of center it back there, leaving the black cardstock frame around. Okay. And I will place this. And now I've got my covers on. Wonderful. In your paper pack, you will find this beautiful print with the bird. Let's put this on our paper cutter, and right there where you can see the line dividing the trim and the paper, let's trim that off really quick. So what I want you to do is grab your resin frame and let's place it down over the bird. And what I'm going to do right now is take my pencil and just make a mark just to the left of my frame. Okay, and then what I'm going to do at the bottom of my frame after I've got this centered is make a pencil mark like that. So I'm going to grab my paper cutter, and the reason why I'm doing it like this is because you may be using slightly different frame. Hopefully we're all using the same frame, but I want to make sure that we have pretty much the same leftover pieces. So we'll just line this up on our paper cutter, and we'll cut straight down, and this will go in my reserves. And then what I'm going to do where that other pencil mark is cut right on that. And put that in there. Whoops, I got everything coming in at me here. Alright, I'm going to place my frame back how I had it. Right about there. And I'll just use my scissors on that. Put that in my reserves. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to cut out and around just slightly underneath that frame. Okay, and I'm going to hold it there so it doesn't get away from me. And just so that the paper doesn't show when we glue it down. But you definitely want to leave yourself some, you know, something for the frame to grab onto. And now we'll just add our glue around that. I'll just place this down here. There we go. And there is the beautiful bird. Okay. I'm going to move this out of the way. I don't think that you need to see me cutting the paper since I am telling you which way to cut and everything. That way I have room here. But what's going to happen is we're not going to quite glue this down yet until we get all our pieces together. And but eventually this is going to be coming down, and then we're going to have our little book thingy there. So we'll just set that off to the side. Grab one of your Tim Holtz Baroque frames if you're using it. Grab this piece out of your reserves, and all I'm going to do is match up the top of this with the top of the paper here, and I have some pretty blue and some leaves in there, and I can still write something in there. So I'm just going to trim this. This will go back in my reserves. And now what I'm going to do is just slightly cut around as best I can. Whoops, that got away from me. Holding it in place. Now there's not going to be a whole lot for this to grab onto, but there will be enough. So, and if there's not, that's okay, because this, I'm going to show you where this goes. We're just going to grab our album, split it down the middle, place it down, and this is going to place right here. So we'll grab some glue, just lightly. You don't need a whole lot for this because we're going to be putting glue on the back of that, and this will have glue, so it will glue down. So I got that. If you have any glue squirt now, you probably want to get that taken care of right now. So now we'll just apply some glue there and around our frame, and we'll place it. Pretty simple. I'm going to place mine right here, right in between, making sure I press that down. Okay, and we can just leave our album open for right now, so while that dries. Okay, we're going to grab some black cardstock, and I'm going to be in the booklet frames, the fancier ones here. And those of you that are not die cutting these, I will give you your measurement in just a moment. I am using the middle frame, so the medium one. So one thing to keep in mind is this little peak down here, that is the bottom. So all we're going to do is place this down, our blades down on a black cardstock, and we will run this through our die cutter. Now, one thing you may want to do is cut a piece that is slightly larger. You might be able to use what's left over as a frame for a picture in your book. So, and I'll show you that. Okay, so the reason why I said you might want to go slightly larger is because you could always use this as a frame over a photograph and put clear acetate back behind, put some decorative paper around. And I've been doing that with these dies. Once everyone has their piece cut, what we're going to do is just fold it directly in half. And then we'll open it back up. Set that off to the side. Those of you that are not die cutting, what you're going to do is cut a 3 by 5 inch piece of black cardstock, and then you'll fold it in half. Next thing is we're going to need a couple pieces in your reserves. Let's grab this piece. What we're going to do is measure over 3 1/8 inch and cut, and we'll measure over again 3 1/8 inch and cut. So I will pull my paper cutter out here, and we'll do this together. So 3 1/8, and we will go 3 1/8, and we'll put this back in our reserves. Okay, I'm going to start with the die cutters, and what I'm in is the booklet basics, and you'll have a series of different size frames. So you have the largest, you have the next size, and this is the one, the next size down, that you're going to want for this. Put this back up. So what you're going to do is you're going to die cut, and you're going to bring this all the way over to the left, and this will be just a perfect fit. You'll die cut there, and then you'll bring your bracket all the way over to the left on this one, and you'll die cut that. Okay, those of you that have the 3 by 5 rectangle black cardstock, both of these 2 7/8 by 4 7/8. So I'm going to get mine die cut. Place any of your leftover scraps back in your reserves. Alright, this is where glossy accents and your ink is going to come in handy. So I'm going to grab my darkest green, my peeled paint, and I'm going to fold these all in half. And if you have the rectangle cuts from hand doing it, you'll fold yours in half. Okay, I'm going to fold it back the other way now. All I'm going to do with this is just ink on those edges. It does not have to be perfect. All we're doing is kind of creating a division of our pieces here. And if you, this is a glossy paper, so if you get too high up, it's fine. I'm going to go one down the middle with that, a swipe. So, okay. Now, the first one that gets placed down is this one. So let's grab our glue, and we'll glue it down, and we will get our glossy accents out here. And there's going to be some drying time with this one. And the reason why I'm using glossy accents is this is already kind of glossy paper, but the glossy accents is actually going to stiffen up our piece. So when it's on the front of our cover, it makes it a little more stiffer and durable. So that's the first one. Okay, once I have it down, I can kind of give it a little bend. And I like using a scratch piece of paper. I guess I'll use this. And to avoid clogging in this, I like to squirt my glossy accents down first on a scratch piece, and then I use an old brush and I'll brush it on there. That's what I do. Now on this one, and we're going to do that together, we're just going to give this a little bend here. Just like that. This one, what I'd like you to do is lightly pull it over without creasing if you can. Just kind of give it a little bend. And we can shape this more too. And we'll kind of bend out a little at the edges. Okay. I'm going to grab a brush and we will do this together. So I've got my brush here, and I'm just going to squeeze some of this out. Now one thing about glossy accents, it will destroy your paintbrushes if you leave it sitting on there too long. So as soon as I am done applying this, and I'm going to need another scratch piece of paper I can see right now. Place my pieces to dry and to protect my desk here. Okay, so I am going to go all over my piece. Just applying it around those edges and on it. So if you're using the decorative frame, try to get it so it doesn't goop up all over your black. Just make sure you can still see your cuts without destroying your piece. So real quick swipes is what I like to do. And you don't have to be perfect. This down under here is not going to be shown because it's going to be underneath the other, but I do want it to have some strength. Just a little bit there. All right. Now one thing is make sure that this is bowed up and that you are not sticking down. So you don't want to do that. Our next piece here, all we're going to do is cover it with the glossy accents. And you'll want to do quick swipes one way because you might be able to see the grain depending on the type of brush. So I like to just go one way with it. Okay, and you don't want to overdo it or it might take the print off, but as you can see I have this down. I'm going to put this in the trash and lift your piece from time to time to make sure it is not sticking down to your your paper there. So now I'm going to stick this off to the side, and I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to get some of my flowers, leaves ready to go. So for leaves, what I've done is I die cut on my leafy accents 2 of these. I've got 1 of these, and I have the 3 petal leaves there for my flower. And what I did was I die cut 2 of the larger ones and then 1 of the next size down, and I layered it. And I do have a flower shaping tutorial that's a few years old, but it will help you with this. And when I colored this, you know, I stamped it with the rhubarb stalk. That's the only color that I used in this. And then I went dark all over. And then I put glue in the center and poured some of my prills in there. Then what I did was a slightly smaller size. I doubled up 2. And when I inked this, I just went dark on the tips and lightly swiped to get the lighter color. And for this one, all I did was I stamped it and then I lightly swiped all the way around so it was a lighter color. Now on the Tim Holtz bouquet flowers, I have 4 of the pieces there. They're kind of grouped together with the little thing. If this comes apart, just kind of maybe use some hot glue or your glue to kind of smash it back together. But all I did was I dabbed on the rhubarb stalk all over it, and this one, and then I went very light after I inked these 2 with the darker. I went very light with what was left over to create these 2. So you'll want 4 little bunches there. So we're going to set this off to the side. We are going to apply the glossy accents to your leaves, so you'll need to make sure that your flowers and your leaves are all covered with it, so that it shines it up and makes them more durable. So I'm going to do that and let it dry. And I'm probably going to give it another 10 minutes and then I'll come back and everything should be dried by then. And then we can start putting our cover together. I think all of my stuff is dry. Now those of you that do not have a die cutting machine or anything like that, you can buy hand punches for leaves and then you can ink them. I was just thinking you can also hand make your vines and your leaves. Here's a piece of cardstock. I'm just going to fold it over here. And I probably won't be that good at this, but here's a folded piece. What you can do is kind of cut a little bit there, come out, and do something like this, and then you can ink it. Don't cut all the way down. I'm gonna right now what I'm making is the 3 prong. It won't look exactly like this, but it will get you by. And just kind of do something like that. And then you have a 3 prong. Like that, and you can use that for your 3 prong when I'm using 3 prong. For the vine, you can kind of do the same thing here, and hopefully you can get some sort of vine look. But that is another option for you. It will work. So let's see what I got. So you can get some vines going there, and then you can clip off any imperfections, of course. But you can see if you kept going up, you can definitely get a vine kind of look. And you can also layer in some of your other leaves. So that is an option too for those of you that don't have anything. Okay, we're not going to glue down yet, but what I want you to do is place that right in the center. Grab this and place it off at a side where this will actually overlap on top. Okay, and make sure that you're kind of centered in between your frame, the edge. And I'm just going to show you how this is going to kind of play out. This leaf here, I was thinking can go like this, and I can definitely pull that back up. This can go on top, and we're going to curve it more. This we're just going to place, I think that one's going to go underneath first. Just kind of set it on up there. Okay. This one here, I want to tuck back behind. And then flowers. Our large one's going to go right up here. We are going to have some of these kind of sticking up. And out. This one will go here. This one I think will tuck back underneath here. And it'll look better once it's all glued down. And let's see. This one will go up here. Actually, I might grab another one of these. That can go there. And I'll grab another bunch here. Ink this up. I'll apply glossy accents in a moment. Chop off some of this. But I was thinking that this may look nice for us for our cover. And I think that that's the way we're going to do it. So let's just take all this off now that you can kind of get an idea what this is going to look like. And we will start with the frame. So once you know where your frame is going to sit, which mine will be there, I'm going to glue this down. Make sure you get back there pretty good. And I think that's a good place for it. I think that's pretty straight. I'm going to glue this one down. Make sure you get those little, if you're using this, you get those little tails that swirl out so that it doesn't snag. And I'll place that right over here. Now hot glue may be an option for getting down underneath or on this frame here. That might help a little, just don't burn yourself. Alright, let's get the easy stuff together first. This piece, the 3-prong, we'll just place that right here. We can get this flower down, and I'm going to use hot glue for that. And I have little flowers right here. And I think I'll get that down first too. So, and I am using hot glue because it does grab a lot faster. Get underneath those. Make sure it stays. Okay. And we do want to get this one down, so I think I'll put this one down next. So let's glue this one down right about like this. Okay, for this, so what we're going to do is kind of give this a good bend, and we're going to apply glue to the seam here, and we're going to get on the edges here. And we're going to place this, I think you can see what I'm doing here, place it together, and then we're going to push in on the side so you can see a little bit of that back layer of, you'll need your tool. You can see a little of that back layer, and it will pop this up a little bit. See over here? And we'll burnish that. And we're going to get right down the middle here, burnish that, and clean up any glue. So that will pop that out a little bit. I'm going to turn this around so I can get over here better. And I'm just going to push it back so it pops it out a little more. And burnish down. So you should have something that kind of comes out like that. Now, when you're placing this, make sure that you don't go over the edge of the front of your cover. So I have a little bit of greenery showing out there. That looks good. I am going to glue down some flowers really quick first. And let's see, where do I want that? Because this is going to be at an angle. So right there. And I'm going to use hot glue for this. And then this is going to glue down like this and like this. So what I'm going to be using is hot glue to get down back behind. So I've got to be quick. I have a low temp here. And I'm just going to get that down. Making sure it isn't going over my edge, pressing, getting down in here. And mine is down, and that ain't going anywhere. Okay, for this I want it to come over. I'm not going to do as I originally thought, but I am going to glue this all down like this so it comes over my edge. And I think that'll look good. So I'm going to start doing that. And I just want it to come over a little bit and come down in the center. Press it down. Alright, I'm going to place this flower first. And I'll be using hot glue for quick tacking here. And I'm going to leave a little area right there open so that I can get my other flower. But I want to still be able to see my leaves. So I'll grab this one now and place it there. And this little guy, and I got this little guy. And I'll add some glue and tuck it back behind underneath my leaves. In there. And I've got this one. I may not need an extra one, but just in case. I'll slide that back behind that one. And I think I do want one more. And it's going to go right underneath there. So just take your time with this, guys. Just kind of take your time. So now this is what our cover looks like, and I think it looks really good. I like that. Okay, the next thing is our drits. And that is the hook and eye for the side. And you do not want to use your hot glue for this. Oh, I think that's lovely. Okay, so what you're going to want is the eye. And if you have a binder clip or something, or little clamps, whatever's fine. We won't be attaching this yet, but we're going to use it for our measurements. So I'm just going to go halfway up there. A little bit of this glue. This glue will hold it. And I'm going to come in the middle of this. Whoops. And I'm going to place it. Now while that glue is still setting, I'm going to hold on here and I'm going to put that through to make sure that I'm not too far out and I'm not too far in. And I think right here for me works. I think that works right there. And then all I'm going to do is clamp it down. Now, one thing is we're going to have to let this sit for a minute to dry, of course. And then you'll just clamp it down and let it sit. I'd say about 5 minutes on that. So we can always put a little flour over it, which we probably will be doing. But for now, let's just get that on there. And then we were going to move on into the inside, which is page 1. And then we'll continue on. And we read this like a book. Page 1, page 2, 3, 4, and so on. So let's let that dry. Our cover is complete. I think it came out lovely. I hope you like it too. So I think this whole thing came out wonderful. We are now on to page 1. Page 1 pre-cuts. Let's go over them. So the first thing that was on our list was a 6 3/4 inch by 10 inch piece of cardstock. And what we did for the scoring is we just laid this on our scoring board. So we were 6 3/4 inch across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and we scored at 5/8 inch. And we labeled that fold out. So matters not if your scoring's over here or over here. It'll get on the page the correct way. Our next piece was a 5 by 7.5 piece of cardstock. There was no scoring. We called it an FO pocket. And FO stands for fold out. Next, we cut a 3.5 inch by 6 inch. And we called this a small FO pocket. And we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 6 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch, and we scored at 5.5 inches. We turned our piece, so we were next 3.5 inches across, and we scored it at a 1/2 inch. Our next pieces cut 2 pieces that were 4 1/8 by 6 inches. We called them top FOs. And what we did on this is we laid this so we were 6 inches across and we scored each at a 1/2 inch. And again, it matters not which side your score line is on. We'll get it on the page the correct way. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is I will show you what flowers I will be using on this page. For page 1 flowers, you're going to want 2 of these vines, or make your own, or just do the 3-prong, but you're also going to need a 3-prong. You're going to need your smallest flower size doubled up. You'll want 2 bunches of your Tim Holtz flowers. You'll want a medium size doubled up, and then 1 size larger doubled up, and you'll want to flatten that one down. That'll go on the inside. Now that we got all that set aside and ready to go, what we're going to do is cut our base decorative piece. And what you'll find is in your paper pack, you'll find this beautiful print. It has the bird in the cages, and let's put this on our paper cutter. And right where the division between the trim and the beautiful paper is, we're just going to cut that right on off. So let's do that. Alrighty, we're ready to start cutting this down to size. So the first thing I would like you to do is measure over 8 1/8 inch and cut. We'll put this in our reserves. We will turn our page, looking at it like this, measure over 10 inches and cut. So this is what our base decorative page will look like. And our base decorative page is what we attach all our fold outs, pockets, everything to that needs to be on here. So the first thing I think I'd like you to do is grab your 6 3/4 inch by 10 inch fold out. And what we're going to do is our hinge is going to be off to the left. So if you need to turn yours around this way, do so. And we're just going to fold on those score lines. And today is a new day, and my Roomba is in full action doing his vacuuming again. So you may hear him in the background, and I may have to shut him off. So what I want you to do now is, with your hinges off to the left, you will have an outside score line and an inside score line. On that outside one, I want you to pinch and crease that. At this point, you'll be able to see your other score line, and that's what you want. We're going to attach this to the top and wrap back behind that little flap. So once you have it even, top and bottom with your page, and I think I got it there, we're going to pinch and hold this so it doesn't get away or slide. And we're going to flip it over. And I'm still holding it down so it doesn't slide. But let's get our glue. And I like to keep my hand down with a little pressure. And what we're going to do is just add some glue right to the hinge. Now be mindful how far you get that glue down near here, because it will squirt out. So we'll check that, and that's something you'll want to do every time we do something like this. So once we get that down, we're going to open this up and make sure that there's no glue that seeped out. Next, we will fold back on that other score line once your glue is dry, and we will burnish, and then we will push it until it feels flat on the side to create our spacing. So you should have something that looks like this with a flatter edge. And I think you can see that. Okay, trim. I will be adding my die cut trim now. And what I've done, and I'm going to show you, is I am in the Spellbinders S5-181. And I'm going to show you how I was able to piggyback to create such a long piece. And I will cut it down. So I'm going to get my brackets out to show you which ones I used. You'll want this one. This is one of my favorites. And then you'll want this one. So what you're going to want to do is, I cut a piece that was, to give me a little room, I cut about 1 5/8, and this is 12 inches long. The first thing you're going to want to do is in between, and I'm going to grab a different one to show you that hasn't been die cut. So the first thing you're going to want to do, so you can find center, is lay your ruler down and find the 6-inch mark. And just at the top, put a little pencil mark, just like that. So that will tell you where the center is. These two brackets will fit together down. So what you'll do is you'll take the top of this bracket, you'll line it up with your pencil mark, and what I did was I brought up the sides to the top of my paper to keep me straight. This one just goes right on underneath it, and using washi tape does help, the type that doesn't tear up your paper anyway. There's different types of washi tape. Some are really strong that once it's down it will tear your paper, and then there's some washi tape that is very removable that just comes right back off. So what I first did was I die cut this. Then at the edge where this had met each other, I piggybacked it. So where the edge of this and the edge of that die cut met, I placed it down, making sure that when I place this down, the hump part is even with the top of my page again, as well as the tip. And I die cut that, and then what I did was for the other side, I did the same thing, lining the edge up with the edge of the middle one that you just die cut, making sure the tip and this are even, and this is what you will get. And you can kind of see the little score line there. So that is how I was able to piggyback to make one large piece that looks very nice. So once you've done that, I cut mine down, and I left my total piece. You'll cut it down to where it's about, you can do about 1 3/8 total. You just need a little bit of black here to adhere down to this. And what we're going to do is we're going to place this down, and you're going to bring it until it is, you can't see the black anymore back behind of this. And you'll put it there centered even, so you'll have even hangover on each side. And I think mine's good right about there. And then you'll use your pencil to make your little marks where the edge of your black cardstock is. And then all we have to do is put this on our paper cutter and trim. I have mine trimmed, and now I'm going to attach this. So I am going to make sure that I have glue on my piece since it is the full length. And I'll wipe up any glue that seeps out. I'm going to stick this under there to use it as a thing. Actually, I should use a different color. It's very hard to see. But what I want to do, I'll use this. What I want to do is just to make sure that it is even. So I'll bring that up till I can't see the black. And that should be straight. And if any glue seeps out, it will get on this little scratch piece that I'm using there. And we'll check the back. And as you can see, I have some glue squirting out. I'm going to wipe that up. So now our trim is on. And if you're not using trim, that's fine, because we'll still be cutting the decorative paper to this piece anyway. So ours is just stuff that we are adding on. And I started doing tutorials like this so people that don't use the dies or the punches can make theirs anyway. So for this, we're going to start on the inside. Oh, it looks like it's blurring a little. There we go. And we're going to find our decorative paper first for this. In your paper pack, you will find this print. And what we're going to do is take off that trim piece to start. Once you have your trim piece off the top, we're going to turn it sideways. Measure over 9 7/8 inch and cut. We'll stick this in our reserves for now. We're going to measure over 6 inches and cut that right down the middle now. So this is what you should have. Let's place this into our reserves. Now do not glue it down yet, but what we were after is to get this to fit in here. And this should leave you a gap between that outside score line and from the edge of your black cardstock here. And top to bottom, you should have about a 1/16 or so of black as well. So what you're going to want to do is center that. Just make sure that you are not on that outside score line. Once you've verified your cut is good, let's move this out of the way. And we're going to grab our 5 by 7.5 inch FO pocket. And you're going to want your 1/4 inch score tape for this. Now there are 2 ways to do this, and the first way I'm going to show you, and then the next time we have a pocket such as this with no scoring, I can show you the second way. So let's take our score tape, and you'll want your scoring tool to burnish really good, but we're just going to place that at the bottom of this panel. And we will burnish that down. And then we're going to remove the score tape. We're going to give this a nice little bend. We will bring this all the way down to the bottom of this panel, making sure you have even overhang on each side. So we'll just bring that right on down there, and we'll press. And I like to start in the middle, pressing and moving my hands out. So this is what you should have. Let's turn it over, and we are going to fold in back behind those leftover little flaps. And we're going to do it on this side, using our tool to help us there. And now we're going to glue those flaps down back behind. And I think my dogs need to go outside. I hear them whining at the back door. So as soon as I get this on there, I can pause the video to help them out. So that is what you should have, and it's a nice pocket, and you'll be able to get things in there. If you are die cutting, I am using the same die. Now what I did was I die cut this out, and then I cut down on the side even with the bottom of that diamond, and then I cut out to the side. So this part is going to be sticking up. And all I'm going to do is glue this down, and I'm going to wrap these back behind here. So I will show you. And I'm just going to place this, bring that up to where I can't see my black cardstock anymore. Then I'll wrap that around, and I'll wrap this side around as well. Okay. And then I'm going to glue this down, and then I'll burnish it all down when I'm done here. And this. Okay, it's time to get our piece, our decorative paper that will fit right on in here. In your reserves, you should have this piece. This piece is approximately 5 7/8 by about 7 inches. So all we're going to do is turn it this way. We're going to measure over 4 7/8 inch and cut. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to move this all the way over to the right hand side, bringing it all the way to the bottom. You'll have more black showing over here, and that's fine. We still have another pocket to place here. But we're going to glue this down, so don't worry about the black. Sorry about that. Whoops. We're just going to glue this down. And it looks like Sissy hears something, and I need to go figure that out. Distractions. Okay, so we have that down. Looks like Sissy is quieted down a little here. Let's grab our 3.5 by 6 inch small fold-out pocket. And you should have your creases down the side and one down here. Let's grab our scissors. You see down here where there's a little, looks like a little square? We're just going to cut out that square. And we'll want to make sure that we get on those score lines. Once you've done that, we can fold this over and start folding on these score lines. Okay, if you were to pull in your sides and pull this up, it should come up easily. If it's snagging down here, you'll want to clip these just a little bit smaller. So all I'm going to do is put enough glue without going past this part if it's pulled in. So that's my kind of guide. We'll fold those in, and this comes up back behind. And we'll burnish that down really good. There we go. Let's grab our 3/8 inch score tape. And what we're going to do is we're going to place this right next to the edge of that little flap. So there'll be some black showing over here, and that's perfectly fine. You can always add glue to that little edge. And we'll do it over here, bringing it all the way down. And we'll do the same down here up to that little edge without going over, otherwise you'll glue your pocket shut. And we'll burnish that. So this is what you should look like. Trim. I will be die cutting some trim, and I will show you what I'm using. In that same die cutting packet from Spellbinders, the S5181, this is the A2 Bracket Borders one. I die cut with this frame and then with this metal one. And all I did was I just cut a piece that was wide enough, and I left some excess on the side. And now all I'm going to do is cut in from the side to release the top. Like that. And I can probably cut down this just a little bit, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. So what I have now is this piece, and if you place it down evenly, and I'm trying to find my even spot here, what you can do is then just come out about a 1/2 inch and cut. And I'm going to wrap that back behind. So. And for now, I'm just going to get this part done, and then I will glue the back behind. So I'm going to bring that up. Try to be even anyway. That looks right. And then I can pull up some of this score tape here. Looks like I have a little bit of glue anyway there, and I will just fold that over, and I can add my score tape back on that, and I'll peel this one back, fold that over, crease it up there, and actually because there's some of this over here, I'm going to use glue, I think, for the rest of that. So I'm going to take this all off, and I will add my glue here and up through here. And there's still score tape. And then I'll add a little down here on the sides. Okay, we are ready. So what I'm going to do is turn it now, and I'm going to place this all the way to the bottom and all the way to the side, and place that down. And definitely need to burnish and wipe up any glue that seeps out. So now what we've created is our side pocket that you can get some in there. And you want to make sure that you get that glued down pretty good down under there if you're using the trim. And I'm just going to let that dry. Wipe up my glue that seeps out. And make sure I can still get this in there. And there is our little side pocket. So let's get our paper for this.